All right, so thank you very much for coming. Today I'm going to tell you how to be an Android expert. Well, actually, it's more like how to be an expert in any technology, really. So if you're coming in for hardcore Android tech knowledge, I'm not going to give that to you today. But hopefully you'll still take a lot away from this talk. So first of all, what is an expert? Think of someone you know that you think of as an Android expert. How do you know that she is an expert? Maybe she wrote a book that you read that taught you how to do Android. Maybe she gives talks about Android. Maybe she hosts a YouTube channel with a lot of videos about all these different things about Android. Or maybe, simply, whenever you type something about your problem, her name always comes up at Google, either because there's a successful question that she answered, or because of her blog post or a tweet. So if that's how you know about an expert, then this dictionary definition is kind of weird. Because the dictionary says an expert is a person who has comprehensive and authoritative knowledge in that particular area. If you go by that definition, you think of an expert as someone that's basically on a pedestal, and people worship this person because they are so amazing. But what I told you earlier about blogging, about speaking, all of them have one commonality, which is that this person shares their knowledge. And that's really it. So you may tell me that, oh, but the reason why that person shares knowledge, sorry, technical difficulties. I shall not gesture as widely. So maybe that person shares knowledge because they have so much expertise in their head. There's just no way that they can keep their mouth shut. They have to share because knowledge is oozing out. But today I'm here to tell you that that is not true. It's actually the other way. Sharing is what gives you the expertise. By sharing, you are going to learn more about what you're doing, and then that expertise gives you more to share. So this is a very nice positive cycle for you to become better and better at what you're doing. Why? Why does sharing make you an expertise? So when you want to explain something to someone, it starts off as this concept in your head, which is all jumbled. But if you want to explain something, you have to take it out and actually line it up in a nice linear fashion, because when you talk, one word comes out at a time. You cannot just say, here, download my brain. There you go. You know what I know now. We don't have that technology yet, so we have this very slow linear method, which means that you have to sort out what you think you know. When you're sorting them out, trying to figure out the relationship between all these different concepts, you may realize that actually there's something missing. I don't really quite know how this thing goes from here to there. So you have to go back and read a little bit more and fill the gaps in your knowledge. This is how sharing gives you more expertise. And you don't believe me, perhaps you will believe in this very famous person called Aristotle, which is a Greek philosopher. He said, one exclusive sign of thorough knowledge is the power of teaching. Okay, maybe you think, well, you know, he lived I don't know how many thousands years ago. What does he know about Android? Well, then try this exercise. Well, not right now. So how many of you have used either a list view or a recycle view? All right. How many of you think you know how it works? All right. So one person can confidently raise his hand and say, I know how exactly it works. But think about it. You have this list view, and for some reason you need this list adapter thing to work with it. Why do I need a list adapter? And then when you need a list adapter, there's this view holder thing, and then when you scroll, somehow these view holders help you manage your memory, and then once you're comfortable with all that, hello, we have recycler view, and then you have to learn that all over again. So if you think you know recycler view or you know list view, try explaining it to someone who may not know it as well, and as you are trying to tell them exactly how everything works, you realize that, oh, I don't really know why do we need a view holder? Let me go research that. So this is one way you can figure out something just by explaining it to somebody else. Great. Okay, so hopefully by now you agree with me that sharing can help you get more expertise. But, well, let's be real, who got time for that, right? Like, I have a job, maybe I want to come to a meetup to learn something, and I have to go back and cook dinner, and I have to put my kids to bed. I don't have time to share my knowledge. But the good news is, you can actually save time by sharing. Okay, this is not really intuitive, so let me share a story with you, well, in an abstract way. So usually what happens is, I'm sure you know as Android developers, there's all these new things that you want to try, all these new technologies. So before I know about sharing being helpful to my career, I'll be like, oh great, I have this is my existing app, I have a few components that work together. And then I learned about this new library called ice cream. Well, there's no library called ice cream, I just put ice cream there because ice cream is easy to draw. So I want to put the ice cream library into my app because it's wonderful. Well, the problem is that this ice cream is shaped and it doesn't really work well with my components. So I have to write some glue code. So I have to put this in so that it works with this component, I put this other thing in, and I realized that, well, the default flavor is mint, but I actually like chocolate more. So I'm going to change my code so that I customize it to my need. It's kind of complicated at this point because it's been mingled with all my code now. So I put some chocolate in, it doesn't do exactly what I wanted to do, and I'm confused. Because I don't know whether this doesn't work because the library is broken, because I wrote the interface wrong, or this is a bad thing to do. So since I started trying to share, I do it differently. What I do is I don't touch my app at all, I just leave it there. And then I try to compile the basic hello world example just to make sure that even without me touching it, everything works, right? And then I build it up. So maybe at this point, I know the hello world works, so I'll customize it. I already put my chocolate in. And I know that I'm not going to splatter it over my other components because it's an isolated thing, so I know that I'm putting it on the ice cream itself. And then I will think about, okay, so how do I actually put it in? What kind of bridge I need? And I will build that, and then I will make it so that it's a nice drop-in thing, right? So by then, I still have this isolated thing, and I know it works. Then I drop it in. So at that point, I'm very clear whether it's because the library is broken, my bridging code is broken, or just the way it's interacting with my app funny. Well, if you have gone this far, guess what? You have a sample project. By isolating this technology outside and then tweaking it to your needs, you actually have a piece of code that you could share with everyone on the internet without exposing any of your company's secrets. I mean, actually, we don't really have that much secrets, but our boss likes to think so. But this is crystal clear that there is nothing in this project that is so specific to your company that you're exposing your company's secret. So you have a sample project, you put it on GitHub. Hello, you're an open source contributor. Yay! And if you put a little bit more effort, if you write down the story of how you found this library, how you customize it, and then how you make sure that it works well with your own project, you have a blog post. So not only that I skipped that confusion about whether my library is broken or my app is broken, all this isolation, which is great for sharing. So what I described to you is a blogging formula. This is how I come up with a blog post, right? Because a lot of people were like, yeah, blogging is good for my career, but I don't know what to blog about. So if you do this, then it's a natural output. So let me give you a little bit more tips on how to write a blog post. The way I do it is I do it with a lot of screenshots and a lot of code snippets. So when I'm trying to build that ice cream side project, what I'll do is I'll take a lot of screenshots of step-by-step how I build it up. So I have a grid view here, and then I put a header, and then I put some other text in it. So I capture all the screenshots to use in my blog post. And then, of course, it's a technical blog. You will also put in some code snippets. Well, there are two purposes this thing serves. One, I illustrate what I'm doing, and two, it takes up space. Because, let's face it, we are engineers for a reason. We are not actually very comfortable with writing long essays. But if you do a lot of graphics like that, then it actually doesn't take that much more words to string it together into a blog post. And one final tip, you can put your code in monospace font, And then people don't even care how much you wrote. They just come in and copy and paste the monospace code into the project anyway. So you don't stress out and say, but like I don't want to write. You don't actually have to write that much. Just a little bit of text so that people have some context of what you're trying to do, and then put in your screenshot and your code, and that will be a blog post. Like they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So if you want to write a 5,000-word blog post, 5 screenshots. I'm sure you can come up with 5 screenshots, right? So and then if you think about it, if you flip the picture, right, as a reader, if you just see a wall of text, you just lost interest right away anyway, right? So I make it sound like it's a cheat, but actually that's what people want. They want to be able to glance and have a very quick idea what this is about. And you can provide that very quickly. So it's a win-win, right? You don't write a lot, and they don't have to read a lot. Just get your point across. So hopefully that will help you write your blog post. And I can give you another blogging formula, which is a conference report. So I don't know how many of you go to technical conferences. You go there and you learn and you come home and you're all excited. But if you can take that one step further and actually document what you learned, then not only you will remember better, but other people can also benefit. Again, we are going to take this 1,000 words per picture idea further. Right, so you can write an introduction and just say, hey, I am at this conference called 360 AnDev, and it's exciting, I'm learning so much. And then the next thing, you don't even need to write a paragraph at that point. What you can do is embed a tweet. So this is one other trick this is a recurring theme of writing a blog post. It's basically make things look visual and big. So remember, one tweet is like 140 characters. It doesn't take that much space. But if someone tweets about something interesting, maybe a keynote announcement or something, put it in a tweet, and you can embed it in your blog post. And then at that point, it's like, wow, looks like there's a lot going on. It's still 140 characters, but it's visually more exciting. So you can do that if other people tweet, but it's also better if you tweet as well. So this is a skill that you have to train yourself for if you're like listening in and you hear something interesting. Like how do you turn that into something very short and shareable? But the more you do it, the easier it gets. And once you start tweeting, and then you can kind of milk as much as possible out of that tweet and share it again in a blog post. And of course, another easy thing to do is just take a picture. You don't have to necessarily share all the pictures you take. Just take pictures, and then when you come home, you can select the ones that are interesting, and then put it in your blog post with a little caption. So one other thing that I've started doing is sketchnoting. I don't know if anyone's seen sketchnotes, raise of hands. Oh, okay, cool. So for those of you who haven't seen it, think of when you're in school and you're taking notes. What you do is you take a piece of paper with lines in it and you write line after line. So what you do in sketchnoting is you take a piece of paper with no lines in it, and then you write in a 2-dimensional space. So you maybe make a title very big, you make some smaller notes, and then maybe a little bit of, draw a little heart around something that you think was really nice and you love. And that's it. Like sketchnoting is just making your notes less linear and more dynamic. And the nice thing about it is so visual that people just automatically attract to it. Like when you share it, it's like, oh wow, that talk looks interesting, and then they can very quickly get the point. And again, you're not at that point writing a 3,000-word essay, you're posting one picture. So if you did your sketch note during the conference, again, you can put it in your report, and then you can add a conclusion and say, that was a great conference, I look forward to next year's edition. That's it, another blog post right there. So hopefully by this point, you feel comfortable writing blog posts. We're going to up one level and talk about speaking. So the reason why I call it up one level is that speaking is live, right? It's interactive. You are there, you have to be on your feet, and if there's a technical difficulty, you have to recover from it. So it's a little bit more challenging. But the flip side is you also get more benefit out of it. So, okay, I have a slide missing, but oh well, that's too bad. So why I think that speaking is one level better than blogging is that when you go to a conference, you are meeting other speakers as well. So most people, when they go to a conference, they go listen to the speakers because they think that the speakers know a lot and want to share. Well, guess what? the speakers actually are learning from each other as well. So usually when you go to a conference, they have some events for just speakers. Usually just a speaker dinner like the day before the conference, and they get to know each other. So when you're in that smaller circle of people who basically tell, well, like the bar is not that high. All you need to be a speaker is speak, right? So, but at least they make that commitment to say, hey, you know what? I care about this community enough that I'm going to put in the effort and organize my thoughts and share with other people. So that group of people are good people to know, right? So if you meet them and then you follow up with them, maybe follow them on Twitter, like later if you have other confusion about different technologies, that, well, come on, we can't all cover everything, right? But if you already met them, then you can ask them questions and they're more likely to help you. So now, once again, whenever I tell people, hey, speaking is great, you should do it, they tell me this. I have nothing to say. Like, what would I give a talk on? And then they give up. They just drop the ball and then just think it's not for them. In fact, this is such a common thing that I hear that I gave a talk on I have nothing to say. But think about it, right? You have something to say because you don't write perfect code, right? It's not like you come in, you just spit out the perfect code and you go home. You have a journey that you're going through each day, every day. You try this one thing, this doesn't work. You try this other thing, it still doesn't work. And then finally, you try this third thing, and then it worked, right? There's value in that. Well, first of all, if other people read your blog post or went to your talk, then they don't have to go through that, right? And then another thing is that I sometimes forget myself how I get to that conclusion 6 months later. So I myself also benefit from that. Sometimes it's not even your own code, right? Maybe you're just importing a library, and then you thought, oh, hey, there's a new version. I'm going to upgrade. And everything will be peachy and perfect, and I will, yeah, exactly. We have Android developers in this room. We know that, no, you upgrade your app compat, and then sometimes it just yells at you, and you're like, what? I didn't do anything. So document. If you encounter something that should work but doesn't work, or something that should take 5 minutes and took 2 hours, that's your clue that you should either blog about it, or if it's even bigger than that, speak about it. So I just actually heard about this yesterday, how timely. So my friend Ellen said that my style of giving a talk is, I'm the idiot who went down the rabbit hole first, and I'm here to tell you which path leads to the fluffy bunnies versus the angry moles. So I think it's a very nice visual of what I just described to you, how you try this doesn't work, mole! And then you finally found what you actually need to do. So you don't actually need to know everything and understand all the things to be able to share and be helpful to other people. So what I do, at least in the beginning, is I keep a notebook next to my computer, what I call the rant book. So whenever something makes me want to yell at the computer or smash it, I take a deep breath and I write down. The idea was that I'm collecting all these stories so that later I can flip through and maybe find some patterns about what has been happening and then turn them into blog posts or talks. But the funny thing is that I found that I didn't even need to read this book to have ideas about talks. The mere idea that I tell my brain, hey, I'm going to be writing down annoying things, so pay attention. My brain automatically pay attention to things that are interesting to share. And then later in the shower, it's like, oh, hey, that thing, I think that will make a good blog post. So, I mean, the brain works in funny ways, but having that just notion of that I would like to share about what I'm learning automatically make it filter through different things you're doing over the day, and then in the shower I will tell you, oh, hey, how about that? So, okay, great, you have these great ideas. Then, objection number 2 I hear from people is like, well, who wants to listen to me? I'm nobody. Why would they spend half an hour listening to me ranting? Well, you all are sitting here at a meetup, and it happens once a month. And where do you think the speakers come from? It's you! Speakers are just the people from the community, and if you are running a meetup every month, you need someone to share every month. And your audience are actually quite friendly at a meetup because they are just your neighbors, right? So there will be, I guarantee you, there will be a meetup that will want you to share what you know. And you don't have to start with a long talk. You can start with a show and tell, meaning something as simple as, oh, I tried to use this library with this other library, but then that didn't work, so then I discovered that I have to add this flag to Gradle, then that will make it work. Thank you. Get off stage. Like a 2-minute share. But other people will find it useful because, hey, they don't have to waste 2 hours trying to figure out that little flag. And then maybe you can up a notch and you do a lightning talk, which is a little bit longer than a show and tell, a little bit more narrative. So you may be giving a 5-minute talk about a small library or other things that you have done. And then you can wrap it up to a full talk. Then the next ramp up is conferences. And then now I realize why I thought my slide was missing, because it's here. So I was telling you about speakers earlier, about how speakers go to speaker dinners and they talk with each other. So that's something that you don't really get at a meetup, because at a meetup, usually, if you're giving a talk that's 40-minute talk, like long, you are the only one that's speaking. But at a conference, you get to mingle with a lot of other speakers, and that's by far the greatest perk of being a speaker. It's not just being there on stage feeling like a rock star. It's to be there connecting with other people. And also, you connect with people after you talk, right? You give a talk, so maybe I gave a talk on Espresso, which is an Android testing library. And then afterward, people will come to me and say, hey, great talk. I also like testing. And then you start talking right away about something that's interesting. Rather than usually when I go to a conference, if I'm not a speaker, then I'll go like, hi, my name is Chuki. I am an Android developer. I live in Boulder, blah, 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 blah. Like you go a little bit of this, like, I guess, small talk, just so that then you can talk about the interesting stuff. If you're a speaker, they already know you. You're already on stage. You already broadcast your introduction. Then you can just start talking right away about technology. I mean, maybe other people enjoy small talk a lot. I'd rather talk technology. So for me, speaker is a great shortcut. So how do you get to be a speaker at a conference? You do what we call a CFP. Do you know what is a CFP? Call for papers. Yeah, so that's a more academic term. I think of them as call for proposals, because when I tell people it's a call for papers, they think they need to write a paper, like a 10-page paper with graphs and everything. No, a call for proposal is basically just very simple. You'll write maybe 2 paragraphs explaining why you want to speak about this topic, and then you also submit a bio to explain why you should be talking about this topic. So, why this topic? I'm going to share with you one of usually the proposal are the exact words that you'll see on the conference website. So I just pulled this off from DroidCon Boston, and just to show you like different components of a proposal and how do you make it convincing that other people would like to come listen to you. So first you have defined the problem. It says Kotlin reduces boilerplate, but what is it really doing? And then you kind of add some meat to your proposal by telling very precisely what you'll be talking about. So she's going to be covering data classes, lambdas, and delegation. And then you wrap it up by explicitly telling people what they are going to walk away with. So in this case, you should walk away from this investigation with a deeper understanding of Kotlin and some tools for continued exploration. So this is it's not very long, the proposal, right? This is maybe 7, 8 lines. But what you're trying to do is define what you're going to be talking about, give some specifics, and then tell people that if they come to your talk, this is what they will learn. And one cool trick is using the word you. It's a very, very subtle change, but instead of saying, I am going to tell you blah, 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 if you say, you are going to learn blah, 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 then you flip the equation completely, and the person reading is saying, oh, that's something in it for me. Perhaps I would like to go to the talk or put it in my conference. But that's almost like a spell check thing. You can do that at the end. You write your proposal, and then you're like, oh, I used the word I. I'm going to flip it to you. So now you wrote a really brilliant proposal, but that still just convinced the people why this topic is interesting, but why you should be the speaker. Well, fortunately, by now you have already learned how to write blog posts. So you already have an internet presence of blog posts explaining what you think on different things. So people have a good idea of like, oh, okay, so that's what she's interested in and she can explain things. And then you've also maybe spoken at meetups. One thing that is good to do when you speak at a meetup is record it. So not every meetup is set up for recording, but if you're presenting from your computer, you can do a screen recording with the sound recording on, and then you just have a screencast of you speaking to the slides, which is maybe not as interesting as with your pretty face on it, but at least like you have a recording of how you explain all the concepts. So on a Mac, you can use QuickTime, you can do a screen recording, and if you're not on a Mac, you can download OBS, which is Open Broadcast Software, which for the gamers among you, you may have used it before, but it's basically how you can do a screen capture, and usually people use it for streaming, but you can also just save it to a local file. So with all that, you realize that, hey, I submitted my proposals, and by the way, submit lots of proposals, not just one, because it's like college application, you don't always get into all of them. But once you get in, then it's the moment of panic. Oh my God, what do I do now? And remember, you haven't written the talk yet, right? You just wrote one paragraph to convince them that you should be the person giving this talk. Well, lucky for you, I have a newsletter about public speaking called Technically Speaking. It's a weekly newsletter that comes out with, it starts with a call for proposal session to tell you, oh, hey, these conferences are looking for people. And then with links about different techniques of maybe how do you make good slides, or how do you calm yourself before you get on stage, or how do you make your talk live longer by writing a blog post about your talk after the conference. So I highly recommend that you subscribe to it. I actually brought some stickers. So if you want, come up to me afterwards, I'll give you a sticker to remind you to subscribe to the newsletter. All right, so everything sounds really amazing so far, but I would like to address the elephant in the room. So when you write a blog post, there are people outside reading it, right? And the number one fear that people tell me is like, what if I am wrong? What if they come and tell me that this is not how you do it? You suck, this is horrible. Well, you know what? I have a piece of good and bad news for you. You have no readers. You just started blogging. So there is no one that is out there waiting to throw rocks at you. Well, the good news is that because you have no readers, you're free to explore, right? You can write about whatever you want to write about, rant about whatever that like makes you angry, and just experiment until something clicks. And then you can start with that path of like, here, you know, when I write about Gradle, people share a lot, so maybe I should continue on that path. And by that point, you kind of already know what people like, so the chance of people yelling at you is much smaller. Well, speaking is a little bit different because most of the time when you speak, you have a live audience and they might ask you questions. And I don't know if you have been in this situation before. You are there enjoying the talk, and then come Q&A time, and then this one guy is like, hi, I have a question. But it's not really a question. I just want to tell you that I know a lot about this subject, and I'm going to monologue right here, right now, in front of everyone. And yeah, that's my question. Thank you. So I have two ways of dealing with that. One way is usually I'll be like, oh, that's very interesting. And then if it actually challenges me technically about something that I have no experience with, then I will say, that's interesting. I've never seen that situation before. Anybody else in the audience have encountered that? And then usually at that point, annoying guy number two will start talking and say, oh yeah, rah, 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 rah. And then the two of them will like start fighting out, and I'm like, so that's one way. Maybe too dramatic for you. So one other thing you can do is just not take questions. There's actually no hard rule saying that if you give a talk, you have to open the floor for questions. So if you're not comfortable with taking live questions, don't. You can tell them, thank you very much for coming to my talk. I won't be taking live questions, but feel free to come up to the stage and we can use the remaining time to chat. Well, that way, people who want to just go to the bathroom, they can just go to the bathroom. And then people who are actually genuinely interested in discussing will come up and talk to you. And then the loudmouth who just want to show off, well, there's no audience anymore. Everybody went off for coffee, so they won't come bother you. At least that's my experience. Usually when people come one-on-one, they are less aggressive about showing off. So it's a valid technique. Like, don't feel bad if you just close off the stage and say, sorry, no questions. It's your stage, your rules. So hopefully by now I have convinced you that sharing makes you an expert and given you a lot of tips about how do you go about blogging and how do you go about speaking. Remember, sharing gives you expertise. It's not the other way around. So the more you share, the more you know about your experts. And the great thing about sharing is that you expand your community. You get to know more people, and then whenever you get into unknown territory, you know that they are there. You can ask them to help you back. So blogging, hopefully by now you are very excited and want to go start a blog. And that's where us techies also get tripped, which is we want to optimize about how do we set up our blog. Do I use Ghost, which sounds awesome, but I don't know how to host it? Or do I just, I don't know, buy a domain and put an Amazon instance? No, don't think too hard. If you want to start a blog, I have a few recommendations. You can either use Medium, which is pretty popular, it looks pretty, or you can use Blogger or WordPress. All three of them are fine choices. Just pick one. Don't agonize over which tag is better than the other because nobody is judging you for how you host your blog, okay? Just write already. And for speaking, like I said, meetups are always looking for speakers. I'm sure Brandon agrees with me that Denver Droids are always looking for speakers. So if you want to speak, contact the organizer. Besides Denver Droid, there are other meetups locally. So there's GDG Denver, there's Boulder Android, and there's also GDG Boulder. I want GDG Boulder. And yes, I want you to speak there. Basically, you tell me what you want to talk about, and I'll put you on the calendar. Simple as that. No need to write me an abstract, a bio, or anything. That's it. So if you want to up it a notch, like I said earlier, I'm also running a conference called 360 AnDev in Denver in July. Call for proposal ends on the 7th. So you have maybe 3 weeks to put in a talk. And we are actually also doing a Q&A hangout, which I think is on the 23rd or the 22nd or 21st. I'm not 100% sure. I'll post on my Twitter later so that you can follow up, which basically is a hangout with us organizers and anyone who may be interested in giving a talk to just throw ideas at us or ask questions. I've got questions, something just as simple as, I have only done Android for a year. Is it okay to give a talk? Yes. Spoiler alert, usually the answer is yes, whatever your question is. But come ask us questions if you want to know whether this topic will be interesting. We're very frank. If we think that it's not going to be very interesting, we'll tell you, and then maybe help you tweak it a little bit. So definitely join the hangout. And I'll also have people come to say that we end up talking about general public speaking tips, so they find it interesting even though they were not going to submit to this particular conference. But since you are local, I highly encourage you to submit to 360 AnDev and enjoy meeting other speakers. Thank you very much. So we have time for questions.
That's up to you.
Yes, I will take questions. Yes. She asked me if I'm needing volunteers for the conference. Yes, we are also looking for volunteers. The same.
Same person that's running it.
Yeah, so John Wilker is doing all the logistics. So yes, if you want to volunteer, which basically means that you help us put the swag bag together and the registration, and then we do timing in the talks because we are very strict in making sure that we stay on schedule, so we have a timer in the room. So if you're interested in that, you get into the conference for free, but then of course you can't go to all the talks because you have duties. But if you're interested in volunteering, that's another thing that you can do. Other questions? Yeah.
So how often do you blog, and when you do a blog, how long does it take you typically?
So the question was, how often do I blog and how long does it take? So the actual writing part, not with like the code samples and whatnot, it typically takes me an hour or two to write a blog post. But the part that I'm doing, the sample project, I actually bill my clients for that because eventually the code is going into the project, which I don't feel bad doing it at all because I usually have to bill them even more hours when I mess up. And it in the beginning, it's much slower, but once you get in the rhythm, especially like I was mentioning, I have like blogging formulas. So basically, I do different sections with a heading and a paragraph and a heading and paragraph. Like that makes it much easier to fill the blog post rather than just agonize over a blank screen. So I segment it into different things. But even that, yeah, it takes about an hour to do a blog post.
Can you do it every?
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot about the frequency. Nowadays, I don't really have a frequency. Like, it just depends on how often there's something that I wanted to blog. I used to be much more like I want to have one blog post per month, and for a very stupid reason. It's because I use Blogger, and they have a expanding menu on the side. So if you don't blog on a particular calendar month, that month disappears. So I want it to say January, February, March. So I'm just like making sure that I have one blog post every calendar month, just so that the visuals, right? Like when someone comes and they click and say, oh, she blogs a lot, well, it's just once a month. But you can see it. So that was what I was shooting for. But nowadays, I end up having so many side projects and other ways that I am contributing back to the community that blogging kind of just like when I feel like I have something I want to share. Yeah, question.
Actually, 2 comments and then a question.
Okay.
So creating that thing that you did where you create the months and keep it in cycle, that's called chaining. That's a good way to create a habit where you don't want to break the chain. So that's a good method to kind of keep your blogging periodical. Like you don't want to break that chain.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing you're saying about how people ask questions, the thing that I found is that most people don't want to trip you up. Your audience is always pro speaker. So it's I've never found someone that is in an audience purposely trying to make me look bad. They may ask a hard question that I don't know the answer to, but they don't purposely try to make me look bad.
Yeah, that reminds me actually, one other thing you can do is say, I don't know. It's totally 100% fine if someone asks you a question and you say, I don't know. Do you want to follow up with me later on Twitter or email, and then maybe we can discuss? You don't have to know everything to share one thing. So just knowing that you can say, I don't know, helps me so much, just being there and say, I don't know, I've never seen that before. What are they going to say? Who are you? Why don't you know everything? And then you said you still have a question?
Yeah, so the question is, how do you gain authority? So you can blog once a day for the rest of your life, but how do you prove that you're an expert?
So the question is, how do you gain authority? My observations are, this is all a numbers game. It's kind of weird. Basically, if you see someone's name a lot, and they don't talk about ridiculous things, you assume that that person is a reasonable person and actually knows something. So the way I did it was tweeting, actually. So I was doing a lot of, whenever I go to a conference, I would tweet about the conference, and then people who follow the hashtag of the conference would end up seeing my name and then maybe start following me. And then I retweet other people, and then when I blog, I will also tweet about it. And that, just like people seeing your name over and over and over and over again, then they somehow equate that to knowledge. I mean, it's broken. I'm not saying that this is how the world should operate, but I'm totally exploiting it, and so should you. Yeah.
I think if you also keep your readers engaged with like commenting on the post, the more comments you have on the post, the more people trust about what you posted, so, which makes it easy to have people coming back to your posts.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Just being engaged and participate, commenting. So there's one thing interesting about commenting that I discovered, which is you'd also it's interesting because like I was afraid of people commenting on my blog saying that you are wrong, this is not how you do things. But I end up mostly getting people that say, hey, thank you for the post, but this is not what I need for my class assignment, so can you also write about how will you do that for a gallery of birds? And I'm like, no, like go do your own homework. So I get so much of those kind of comments that I end up moderating comments. Yeah, I just don't let it through. I mean, because like I will feel bad like having that question dangling on and I ignore them. But on the other hand, I'm under no obligation to do their homework. So I ended up just shutting down. I mean, there are constructive things that people suggest, like, oh, have you checked out this other library? Or like for that particular thing, you could also just use this other helper function and that will be shorter. There are definitely very constructive conversation going on, except it's maybe 30%. The other 70% are just people saying, oh yeah, that was great, but it doesn't solve my problem. Okay, that's your problem. Right? Don't pollute my blog with your problems. So if you're afraid of blogging because you're afraid of people challenging you on your comment, feel free to moderate it. Totally 100% fine. It's your corner of the internet. You do whatever you want.
All right.
So one last thing for you. Who is kind of thinking about maybe giving a talk, either here or at 360 AnDev? Yeah, cool. So just look around. I'm saying it because sometimes, like, for me, it's better to have a speaking buddy, to have someone to hold you accountable. Like if you're interested, I just say, hey, Brandon, you said you're going to give a talk. What happened to that? And then just keep each other interested, because sometimes life happens. You just get busy. And then you can brainstorm. And sometimes your initial idea may not be the thing that you will end up with, but if you talk it through with someone, then other things come up. So find a speaking buddy. Thank you.